So, you're joining the Matthews family. This is my wife Charlotte, for anybody who doesn't know, and these are my two girls, Robin and Isabella. On the ground of Dunrobin Castle. We've just been to Caithness working this weekend. We're on our way back now to Inverness. Quickly explain, because Robin's getting heavy. You're going to be watching me shoe a horse called Foxy, where I put a rocker toe on to help break over. You'll see why. If you like this video, don't forget, click the like button, subscribe to the channel to see all my other videos, and catch me at the end. So, Foxy has got slight swelling around the tendon sheath on a near fall. And what she also has got wrong on an external side is the hoof pastern axis is wrong. When I say hoof pastern axis, what I mean by that is this is the pastern. If we dissect the centre of the pastern and look at the angle of that and then compare it to the angle of the hoof wall, they're both at two different angles and they should both correlate at the same angle, as well as the line of shoulder or spinous-scapular. Problem with them not correlating is where the deep digital flexor tendon runs around the back over the navicular bone and attaches to the pedal bone. That navicular bone acts as a fulcrum, like a lever. So when this toe is long, that is stretching that tendon, and that tendon is under increased strain and pressure. If we fix what we can see wrong on the outside, hopefully there's a good chance that will solve the problem. If not, further investigation will be needed. So, just to trim the foot. So if we look at the limb, the whole of the limb, when it's perpendicular to the ground, that will give us a reference point on when we want to check it next time. If we always make sure that that limb is perpendicular to the ground, we'll know if there's any changes, positive or negatively. So, I'm reassessing the angle of the pastern now, and it's still slightly broken back, so that rules out my options of using a toe clip. I've got two options now. I can either take the clip off that shoe and roll the toe, I'd like sort of put a slight set in the toe, that will then act as a clip as well, or I could get another shoe with two clips, but I'm inclined to take the clip off and set the toe slightly. Cool. So this is a slight set toe, and if you can see it, slightly raised across the back there. And the idea of that is, one, it will ease break over as the toe lands and then starts to push off. You can roll into that with ease, as opposed to if you imagine it was a sharp corner here, it would be more difficult for that and more abrupt point of leverage. Second is, because this is raised, it enables me to get the length of the toe wall at the toe shorter. That's good, because if it's as short as it can be, then there's nothing that can distort. If there's no excess wall, it can't distort, it can't flare. So that's why I like to do this method. It works really well, in my opinion. Obviously the heels are the same. as the foot comes and lands on the ground, it can roll in and then break over. With these shoes, like I said, there are no clips. So when nailing them on, it's difficult to keep them in the place that you want them. So like most farriers, including myself, we'll start by putting 2 nails in at the toe, partially driven. And then once we make sure our shoe's held in place by those 2 nails, we can finish driving them in and finish nailing the rest of the shoe on. So because the shoe has a tendency to move, and generally it moves backwards, I always like to take a double take on it and just double check that the shoe is where it's supposed to be in relation to the hoof pass and axes before I commit myself and finish nailing the shoe on. So a tiny break from shoeing. This is an image taken in Caithness. This is an X-ray image of Foxy's front left foot. It was taken approximately 2 weeks after being shot. I feel it's also worth mentioning that Foxy has been in open-heeled shoes with myself for 2 years now, and however many years prior to that with the previous farrier. This X-ray clearly shows that there's no negative palmar angle, where some people would have you believe that open-heeled shoes cause that condition. Well, this is just another example that that's not the case. I've put some arrows in green and yellow to indicate points of interest. The green arrow is where the slight set, the rocker toe, using the correct term, is in the shoe. That is basically the breakover, which creates a leverage reduction at that toe area. And I've also thinned out the heels where the yellow arrow is pointing to. That was because it was quite a heavy heel landing, and that just reduces that. The longer red line shows more hoof wall mass at the bottom than it does where the smaller red line is, the shorter red line. Some people might say, oh, well, you can rasp all that front of the toe off down where the longer red line is and make it the same, so it's the same hoof wall thickness all the way down. But I don't believe you need to do that. I believe by having it like it is, you're just creating a stronger hoof capsule, and you are mechanically enabling that foot to work to its optimum by putting that rocker in the toe and bringing the breakover back. But at the same time, you've got all the strength from that extra thickness at the toe. So this is an X-ray image taken from in front of Foxy's left foot. The 2 green arrows are pointing to the foramina. That is where the blood passes through the pedal bone. It was farrier Highland Farrier FWCF who I first heard say use the foramina as medial lateral balance reference points. And I also believe it would be wrong to use the joint spaces to determine medial lateral balance, as a horse could be leaning one way or another whilst that X-ray image is taken, and it would be impossible to determine if the horse was doing that at the time. We also know that if there's more blood flowing to one side of the foot carrying nutrients, then that side of the foot is going to grow more or grow faster. So it stands to reason that if the foramina are level to one another, that blood flow would be evenly distributed to both sides of the foot. Well, that's my logical way of thinking of it. The trouble with using X-rays for determining balance is they are only 2-dimensional images, and you're applying them to a 3-dimensional object, that being the horse. So we're leaving Dunrobin Castle. Robin and Charlotte's trying to escape the camera. Have you had a good time where you go? Right, hope you enjoyed that video, and see you on the next one.